Is Kansas State going to repeat as Big 12 champions? Now, they shocked a lot of people when they won the Big 12, upsetting TCU in the Big 12 championship game. And they got a really good squad. And some people say this is the best team that Kansas State has had since 2012. And they got a really good coaching staff. You got Colin Keelan entering his second season as offensive coordinator. And looking at this offense, this should be one of the best offenses in the Big 12 this year. Will Howard comes back at quarterback. He reminds me a lot of Dak Prescott. For those of you guys who watch the NFL and keep up with Dak Prescott, I think Will Howard has a lot of his mannerisms. Really stocky, big, well-built guy. But he's a little bit of an underrated runner. Now, he's not a great runner. He's not overly athletic. But he does have enough mobility that you have to account for it. And he's pretty big as well. So Will Howard has a lot of similarities, in my opinion, to how Dak Prescott plays. He throws a really good deep ball. And when you look at how he played last season, he completed 59% of his passes, 15 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. He was fantastic. And he has arguably the best offensive line in the Big 12 that's going to be blocking for him this year. And the reason why I say arguably is because it's either between you or Texas. Texas had a really inconsistent offensive line last year, but that's due to the fact that they had a lot of young guys starting. They're going to be having 2 really good sophomores on that offensive line this year. And their offensive line is going to be really good, or at least it looks really good on paper. Now, Kansas State, they return all their starters from last year. They got a couple of guys on this offensive line who could end up being first-round picks in next year's NFL draft. So this is going to be one of the better offensive lines that you're going to find in all of college football. And at running back, you're asking who's going to replace Deuce Vaughn. Well, I'm glad you asked, because I did not know that Treshaun Ward transferred to Kansas State. I was surprised as hell when I saw Treshaun Ward pop up on Kansas State's roster. I was like, bro, when the hell did he leave FSU? Y'all have a real dog in Treshaun Ward at running back. Like, I promise you, Deuce Vaughn was a good player, but there's not going to be a big drop-off going from him to Treshaun Ward. Did you know over his last 2 seasons at Florida State, he was averaging over 6 yards per carry? Do you know how good you have to be as a running back to average at least 6 yards per carry? That means every 2 carries you got, you was averaging a first down. And they already got another good running back right behind him in DJ Giddens. So you look at Kansas at running back, they don't have a Deuce Vaughn back there, but they're set at running back with Treshaun Ward. That's one of their biggest pickups from the transfer portal. And I didn't even know he left Florida State. Well, I knew he left Florida State because he wasn't on the roster, but him ending up at Kansas State is just so random. And that's the crazy thing about the transfer portal. It's like, you never know where the hell certain players are going to end up at. And he's a Florida boy. And one thing you Kansas State fans need to know about Florida boys is that we some dogs. We get it done. You can depend on us. We come through when it matters. So Treshaun Ward, this is a really explosive running back. He's really good after contact. Really explosive, has good acceleration. You got a really good pickup in Treshaun Ward. That's one of the better pickups amongst all the other schools in the Big 12 who are active in the portal this cycle, man. I did not know Treshaun Ward freaking transferred from FSU to Kansas State. That is crazy. Wow. And when you look at tight end, they got one of the best tight ends in the country, and Ben Sinnott, or Ben Sinnott. I forgot how they pronounce his name. Forgive me. But this is a really good offense. A really good offense. Now, defensively, I got some concerns. Your D-line is going to be pretty good. You got a good amount of experience coming back and talent coming back, even though you lose your leading pass rusher from last year, but your second sack producer returns. Who's going to step up behind him? Your cornerback position is a big question marks. You lose 2 of your best cornerbacks to the NFL. You're going to have 2 starters replacing them. Now you got Kobe Savage on the back end of the secondary though. And he was a second team Big 12 selection. This dude is a dog. He's one of those guys that's a him. And you definitely don't want to be running around in the middle of the field with him lurking, because you might end up regretting it. Really good player, really good safety. So their safety position should be set. They got a North Dakota State transfer that was pretty good as well. So their secondary, you got concerns at cornerback, but you like what you have at safety, and you think that your defensive line is going to be able to repeat the production that you somewhat had last year. Now, when it comes to the pass rush, that has to improve, because even with what you had last year, your pass rush still overall could have been a little bit better. Now, when you look at Kansas State and how they stack up amongst the other teams in the Big 12, I think that they probably are the third best team in this conference walking in. If I had to rank all of my top 3 Big 12 teams, I would go Texas first, Kansas second, and Kansas State third. And you play Kansas this year. You can very well beat Kansas. I think it's going to be a really entertaining game. When you look at how much Kansas returns on offense and defense, they return 91% of their offensive production from last year. And when you look at Texas, they have one of the best rosters in all of college football. So they most definitely are capable of being able to win the Big 12. But Kansas State should be up there again. You have consistency from your head coach. TCU, yeah, I like Sonny Dykes, but we don't know how they're going to look with everything that they lost from last year's team. They don't really have a lot coming back. They had to hit the portal pretty hard, so we don't know how they're going to look. Oklahoma under Brent Venables, I think they're going to be solid, but I don't think they're going to compete for the Big 12. And Texas Tech is a team that's on the rise that you can't overlook, but I think that you have a slightly better roster than them, given how great your offensive line is. And when you look at your schedule, it's not difficult. At least your first couple of games, you're playing Southeastern Missouri, Troy, and Mizzou. You should be able to win those 3 games. And then you enter conference play 3-0 against UCF, which I think you can win that one. You go 4-0 coming off your bye week on the road against Oklahoma State, which is a winnable game. And Oklahoma State shouldn't be that good this year. I don't think they're that great. You look at Texas Tech, though, that's going to be one of the biggest games of the season for Kansas State. Texas Tech is one of those programs that are on the rise. They are recruiting at a really high level. They got a really good team. Then you got TCU, Houston, Texas on the road, Baylor. This is probably going to be the toughest stretch of your schedule to end the season. Kansas, Iowa State. So I think best case scenario for Kansas State, they go 10-2 again. I definitely think you're going to lose to Texas this year, and you probably could have another loss, which comes from Kansas or potentially Texas Tech maybe. But 10-2 is my best case scenario for Kansas State. Worst case, I'm going to go with 8-4. I can't see this team winning anything less than 8 games. They got a really good team. They're really good up front with really productive quarterback play. Their defense is a little bit of a question mark when you look at them having 2 new starters at cornerback. How are they going to play? What production are they going to get from that position? But even then, I can't see them winning anything less than 8 games. Now, my overall prediction for them, I think I probably have them at 9-3. I think they probably could suffer from an upset. And plus, I still have them losing to Texas. But this is a really good team. This is one of the best teams in the Big 12 entering this season. Great offensive line. Your defensive line should still be pretty good. Your offense could be even better than what it was last year. Even though you don't got a lot of proven production at wide receiver, you do return Phillip Brooks, who was second in receiving yards last year. He also was tied for second in touchdown receptions as well. So there's enough talent for Kansas State to win the Big 12 again, but I don't think they're going to repeat. I honestly feel like Texas and Kansas are going to make the Big 12 championship. And that could be a Super Bowl prediction. It could be a wild prediction, but I just think that Texas is just so good. And when you look at Kansas, they had a lot of momentum last season until their star quarterback got injured after they went up 5-0. So I think Kansas State is going to be a really good team. They do have a good chance to win the Big 12 again, but if you had to ask me yes or no, will they win the Big 12 again? I'm going to have to tell you no. But this is definitely one of the more underrated programs in college football.